What is the scariest movie you ever watched? The Ring. When I was 9 or 10, that was scary. It's the only movie I absolutely refuse to watch ever again. I saw it once as a kid, and I'm 30 now. I still have occasional nightmares about it. Sometimes, I'll be eating, and this movie will pop into my head, for no reason, and I lose my appetite completely. I'm haunted by it. I'd encourage you to watch it again as an adult. That typically resolves the shadows seeing horror movies as a small child cast on us. Things that are horrific at 9, look a lot different at 30. The Descent. Horrible monsters, mixed with darkness and claustrophobia, makes a scary movie. I was looking for this movie. In my opinion, this film is the perfect balance between bloody, physical horror, and actual psychological terror. Hereditary is the only one to scare me, as an adult. That one scene lives in my head. Not when it actually happens, the silence afterward, and his face. Ugh. The last 10 minutes did it for me. After sitting through the whole movie, and then watching the ending. It was an ordeal. Guillermo del Toro's The Orphanage. Edit, I was corrected that he did not direct this. My bad. This woman moves into this house, that used to be an orphanage, that she grew up in. Ends up seeing lots of ghosts and hearing things in the walls. Her son goes missing, and she thinks the ghosts took her son, but what really happened is, that he went into a crawl space and she accidentally locked him in, so he died there. At the end of the movie she kills herself, so she can be with her son and the other ghost kids. It was so effing sad, because theoretically it's something that could happen, and my anxiety caused me to spiral for months over it. I had nightmares daily, about losing family members. Arachnophobia, because I have arachnophobia. That film gave me arachnophobia. There are definitely better movies, but Sinister has always scared the shit out of me. It took me 2 tries to watch it. It's the only movie I've ever turned off, from being so scared. The sounds in Sinister make my skin crawl. It's so unnerving. The music is incredible. It will just make your skin crawl. This will sound silly, but Ernest Scared Stupid really scared me when I was a little kid. The bedroom scene, where she turns around and the troll is right there, I lost so much sleep cause of that, when I was a kid. Although it's not necessarily a horror movie, Kids was traumatizing, due to my age, when it came out. It left me with a pit in my stomach, that didn't subside for weeks. When I was barely 13, my mom took my friend and I, to the video store. She didn't really pay attention to the 2 tags I gave her. We rented Kids and Clerks. Looking back now, those were 2 F-up movies for kids, just hitting puberty. When my mom was watching my young kids, years ago, she went to rent Monsters vs. Alien, Kids Animated, and accidentally took home Alien vs. Predator. LOL, she quickly realized her mistake during the opening scenes. Still tease her to this day. The Thing. My first viewing was at night, and I was maybe 5 or 6. It scared me so bad, I only watched subsequent viewings, during the day, until I matured a little more. I also saw this, at an inappropriate age. The husky scene is specifically what effed me up at 5 years old. Now it's my all-time favorite horror movie maybe, because of the trauma? Worked with some Norwegians on a project recently, and some of them were actually stationed at the Antarctic base, from time to time. Apparently, every Halloween, the entire base gets together to watch the movie on site. The Grudge. I don't know why, but this effing thing is so scary. I had to pause it. Never had this before. Even the worst splatter is nothing for me, but this. No. It was when the lady got sucked into the bed, when she was hiding under the covers. Like, they took away my only defense in the dark, as a kid. To this day, I curl the blankets under my feet, instead of dangling them off the edge. It's been about 15 years now. The Road. No horror movie prior to that has ever kept me up at night, or made me think about what if, especially as a father. I read the book, but never watched the movie. The part from the book that always stuck with me was when they found the basement full of people and ran away. The dad doesn't know if they were seen, and he contemplates smashing his kid's head in with a rock rather than be taken by the cannibals. Even typing it now stirs up some feelings. Did that scene make it into the movie? Edit, for those interested, I found the passage from the book. They lay listening. Can you do it? When the time comes. When the time comes there will be no time. Now is the time. Curse God and die. What if it doesn't fire? It has to fire. What if it doesn't fire? Could you crush that beloved skull with a rock? Is there such a being within you of which you know nothing? Can there be? Hold him in your arms. Just so. The soul is quick. Pulled him toward you. Kiss him. Quickly. It's in the movie. It's commonly referred to as the pantry scene. In the movie, he saves the last bullet for his son when the cannibals are searching for him. It's pretty bleak thinking just how far he's willing to go to spare his son from horror while willing to endure it himself instead. One of those scenes that actually hits harder in the film rather than the book, because it's a bit more cerebral. In the book, he keeps the bullet for himself and thinks of using the rock. In the movie, the bullet is for his son to spare him. The Exorcism of Emily Rose. I kept waking up at 3 a.m., on the money, for weeks afterwards. Didn't help that I found and listened to the original tape-recorded material of her speaking fluidly in different languages while being exorcised. This is it for me. I watched it in theaters when my boyfriend was out of town. I went home and slept with the lights on. I love scary movies, and had never done that before or since. I'm going to have to look for those tapes. What F'd me up about that movie is that a few months after, my then girlfriend at the time just casually dropped, I've been waking up at like 3 a.m. on the dot every night for the past 5 days with the smell of something burning, having never seen the movie. Nah, after that, I completely stopped with horror movies. F that shit. Technically TV, but if you count the whole thing as one 10-hour movie, like I do, then The Haunting of Hill House on Netflix. Listen, I'm a guy who chases the high of a good horror movie scare like a junkie, and I'm almost always disappointed. Every time something new is called the scariest film of the last 2 decades, it usually barely moves the needle for me. The Haunting of Hill House made me sleep with the light on for 2 weeks after I finished it. Just saying. Wonderful TV show. The funeral episode is still one of my favorite hours of TV or movie ever created. Mike Flanagan has a couple other TV shows on Netflix, if you haven't watched them. They're good for a watch, but I haven't found myself going back and watching them again and again, like I did with Hill House. So, the one that got me was watching Watership Down as a kid. I know it's not really a scary movie, but traumatizing as a kid. Dude. I cried my brains out when Hazel followed the spirit rabbit at the end. I really liked It Follows, just because it was such a simple idea, and required little to no special effects to be genuinely creepy. Bro, that scene, where the giant guy appears out of the dark hallway behind that girl, easily one of my favorite cinematic shots in any movie, was so eerie, yet so perfect. The Shining. I am not a big fan of scary movies, and it was the first one I ever watched. Effing terrified me. I got so freaked out toward the end, I didn't even finish it. Misery. My knees were wobbling when I walked out of the theater. No more Stephen King for me. For me, there is only one immediate, horrifying and unsurpassed answer: Threads. I'm the kind of guy that never gets fazed by or attached to movies, so this makes Threads all the more special. I won't spoil much, but this is sort of a documentary-style British movie that portrays what might happen to Britain in the case of an all-out nuclear war in a visceral, disturbingly realistic way. I've watched The Day After a while before this one, and it doesn't even come close. There's no happy ending in Threads, there's no hope, no redemption, no light at the end of the tunnel, just a raw, uncensored depiction of what human stupidity might eventually lead us to. I've watched it in my late 20s, and it still ended up seriously disturbing me. It was probably a month or more before it stopped popping into my mind every single day. Even now, when I think about it, I can't help but suppress a little shudder. Make no mistake, it is a fantastic film, it is a crucially important film I encourage everyone to watch, but the impact it had on me kinda makes me wish I never did so, even though I just might be a tiny bit more human for having done so. Poltergeist. When I was a kid, I F up and let my son watch Poltergeist when he was 7. I sat through the whole movie thinking, shit, forgot about that. Forgot about that part too. Oh, the melting face, I completely forgot about the melting face. The original, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, is still the most terrifying and horrifically uncomfortable film I've ever seen. There is virtually no blood in it, but the cinematography and atmosphere created are pure horror. The original, It movie, with Tim Curry. I watched it first when I was a kid. I'm now 42, and still have nightmares. I have to say, Paranormal Activity. I remember, when we were in the theaters, people were crying by the end of it, they were so scared. I was scared too, not gonna lie. That movie was special. Pet Sematary, original, not the remake. I was young at the time, and my dad used to bury our pets, that died in the woods, in our backyard, so, that freaked me out for some time. Edit, updated movie title. Not sure why I used cemetery, but my backyard definitely was one, in this case. The Mothman Prophecies, scared the shit out of me as a kid. It was such a well-made psychological horror film. I gotta rewatch it sometime soon. There was no real monster in it, it was more reflecting on the horrors of the mind, and the specters of grief and trauma. Similar to Hereditary, in many ways, but that movie didn't scare me as much. Requiem for a Dream. Watch this, it may not be a typical horror movie, but it's as scary and real as it gets. Absolutely incredible movie, and it's haunted me to this day. If you have any life experiences with drugs, and watching people suffer, and cause suffering, it will trigger your PTSD. Insidious, 2010. Came here to say this. Insidious is my favorite ever movie franchise. Love how the second movie happens immediately after the first movie. It is scary as hell, so many freaky moments in it. What's even scarier is the parts that happen in daytime. The red-faced demon popping up behind Josh in the scene made everyone in the cinema theater scream out loud. For me, the scene where the girls pop up when the guy is taking photos is frightening, as are the bits in the further, especially where the group of people stand up next to Josh and smile. In Insidious 2, the bit where the girl is whispering through the can, "I'm not Dalton," is so freaky, and when they're going through the abandoned hospital, especially where the guy is pulling all the sheets off to find the demon, and the mother, in the white dress, in the house singing, so creepily, merrily, 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 merrily. Frightening. Along with loads of other moments. I'm so absolutely excited for the fifth movie, coming out on July 7th, which is based 10 years after the first two movies, with all the same characters and actors, including Patrick Wilson, coming back for it, even the actors who played the two little boys. I'm sure it'll be extremely scary. Not sure why, but The Orphan scared the shit out of me. And I'd seen a lot of horror movies at that point. Has the most uncomfortable scene I've seen in a movie so far. The Day After. I watched it when I was a kid, and it absolutely terrified me. When it originally aired, ABC had to set up phone hotline with counselors standing by. It's one of the scariest depictions of nuclear war in film, in my opinion. Chilling. Signs. The aliens terrify me. Yep, mine too. The alien reveal, through that home video footage at a children's party, terrified me. I had never felt immersed in a movie in my life up until that point. I think it was because of the first-person perspective that scene was shot from, and since I was only 8, I probably hadn't really seen many scenes from that perspective. It really did a number on me, LMAO. Martyrs. I will never forget that film. From IMDb. Pascal Laugier has confessed that he wrote the screenplay for the film in a state of clinical depression, bordering on his thoughts, which is why the film is said to have a nihilistic and depressing subject matter. I could have guessed. Skinamarink. Honestly, it is not for everyone, but it was the first movie that made me want to turn it off, hide me face behind my hands, and pause it few times, just to calm myself down. I tell my friends to watch it as an art film, rather than a plot-driven movie, but deep down, I think it's an absolutely incredible accomplishment. It captured the experience of early childhood fear, in a way no one else ever has, and I couldn't stop thinking about it for weeks. Come and See. A fantastic film that I will never watch again. I wasn't so much scared as just horrifically depressed after watching it, which, I suppose, is the point. I believe it was called Green Hell, about an activist group trying to save natives in the rainforest, and end up being caught and eaten by them. Lots of unsettling imagery, and the FGM themes really bothered me. Edit, Green Inferno. Honestly, Barbarian was surprisingly scary, and just really F up. A modern horror/thriller hasn't made me gasp out loud in fear in years. Not a single soul here will agree, because it's kinda jump scary, but I thought it was so well done. Smile scared the absolute shit out of me when I saw it in cinemas, and it still terrifies me now. I can't watch any clips without my heart rate spiking. Never watching it again. Jaws. Scarred me for life. I remember after I saw it, I was afraid to sit on a toilet afterwards. Like, I thought, a shark was gonna eat my ass, or something. Same. I have had a lifelong phobia about sharks and water, after a babysitter forced me to watch it, when I was 5. It traumatized me. I was 9. My father, yup, dear old dad, snuck me into the theater to see A Clockwork Orange. Pissed the bed, woke up to my mom's terrified face. Haven't read it, or seen it since. Maybe I should? Probably be good mojo. Definitely not something a 9-year-old should watch, but absolutely give it another chance as an adult. It's a great movie. Contagion. Was shown the first 15 minutes/half hour, in health class freshman year in high school. My best friend and I were so traumatized, we spent the next class in the library, watching ghost hunting videos, while the rest of the class watched the rest of the movie. Just being in med, this is the type of thing that is completely plausible. We got extremely lucky that COVID was not as deadly as the OG SARS, it would have F everyone up. Reg. It looks too real, and it is very common to live or visit other people in buildings that recall the one in the movie. I have seen it more than 10 years ago, and it still gives me chills sometimes. Midsummer. Can't believe there aren't more people saying this movie. Literally, made me feel physically sick, but yet, I still talk about it and respect it as a great movie. The scariest movie that I have ever seen will always be Darkness Falls. That movie scared the crap out of me. I remember, on my way home from my friend's house, that I had watched it with, had me on edge the whole time, cause I remember, I kept looking behind me and keeping a lookout, cause it was dark and yay, I was on edge. For like 2 weeks, I kept my lamp on. When I went to bed in the dark just gave me the wheelies for a while, after I saw that movie. I know, I sound like a scaredy cat, but well that freaking movie scared me to death to be honest.